Well, as we kick off the month of September and get post Labor Day holiday, how are things looking on the weather front as we finish out this 2025 growing season? Let's get caught up on the latest details and talk with Eric Snodgrass from Nutrient Ag Solutions for our weekly weather update. Eric, good to talk with you. Hope you had a great Labor Day holiday weekend. I know you spent a lot of it doing some updates to the agweather.com website as well, which if folks haven't gone and checked that out, Eric, it looks pretty good. You guys did a real nice job with that.
I'm trying. The ultimate challenge with these websites is to make sure they're mobile friendly, and we worked on some of the features to make sure they've got that while retaining a lot of the stuff folks like. So yeah, go to ag-wx.com and check it out. Hopefully it's a good experience.
Well, hopefully, folks are heading there to get some of the latest weather details. We got a few different headlines I think we need to talk about. Let's
Yeah.
start with the dryness that we saw in the month of August, especially in the eastern half of the Corn Belt. I know there's been a lot of chatter about this, and I think that directly correlates with the item two on our list, which is talk of low water levels in the lower Mississippi River once again. So, walk us through just what we've been seeing here and how this ties together, Eric.
Yeah, we've started to watch the Bermuda High drift a little east over toward Africa. So that kind of shut down the pump of moisture that was all throughout June and July and even the start of August for many folks. I mean, that was our hot, stormy summer, which we talked endlessly about. So the Mid South took it first, and also parts of the Ohio Valley up into the Northeast followed. And so we've seen some significant drought. I mean, there's some places down there that I'm talking about down there is like the Mid South getting into the Ohio Valley, which includes where I am up in Champaign, to be honest with you, where we've not measured rainfall, some of us in over 40 days.
Mm,
And I mean, and it's crazy to think about because you were underwater back in April.
yeah.
And so on the year, maybe your statistics look like, oh, I'm 130% of average, and I haven't measured rainfall in 30 to 40 days. And unfortunately, that meant up to a three-class degradation and drought across a big section of the Mid South and the Ohio Valley. The crop didn't finish well under that. It was hot for the first part of it and then cold for the second part of it. And as you mentioned, that second bullet point, the Mississippi River is kind of the canary in the coal mine. In April, it was 38 feet above low stage. And I just checked this morning, it is 0.22 feet below low stage. That's a 38 plus foot change in the river level at Memphis. And all of a sudden we're going, well, wait a minute. We've had low river levels in 2024. We had them also in 2022. And are we looking at another fall where we're dealing with really, really terrible dryness? Now, we love it for harvest, but then we need the moisture to come back in to ensure many things, one of which is, just not the start of a winter with drought. And the second thing is, can we get some fall application done? We got to have better soils to work, and some moisture needs to get into those soils. Now, there's a little bit of rain coming. There's a front that's going to come through the upper Midwest. It's going to dive into the eastern Corn Belt, and I'm hoping that it outperforms model forecasts. But even if it does, if it doubles up on the rain that it's currently forecasting, it's still not going to be enough to break the longer term drought issues we've been in. And so I'm kind of concerned about the way this is shaping up.
Well, thinking about those two items, and then the third item on my list to ask you about, there is some talk with, we've seen a couple cold fronts work through. We obviously had very seasonable, pleasant weather to end August and continuing some of that here in September. But there's some chatter about frost later this week in the upper Midwest. What are you hearing there, Eric?
Well, first of all, the seasonable part is actually more seasonable for like October. I mean, it's been
That's
very
true.
cool. The last 10 days of August for the Midwest, I mean, a huge chunk of states in the eastern two-thirds of the US, but focused on the Midwest and Mid-South. It was a top five coldest finish to August. So now here we are in September. We got a cold front coming through the upper Midwest that's going to put down snow in Ontario. I actually can't rule out the chances for snow around Duluth ahead of Minnesota. But the concern is going to be from Minnesota into Wisconsin. Do we get those temperatures down to where they touch frost? Now, touching a frost is way different than 4 hours below 30, right? Or 28. I'm not expecting damage out of this if we do touch a frost. And I'm certainly not expecting it farther to the south. But we're going to have a pretty chilly morning coming up later this week across the Corn Belt as temperatures are in the low to mid 30s in some places, and then upper 30s, lower 40s for a lot of other places. But it's still September. We are going to warm right back up mid-September, and you're going to go, wait a minute, what's going on here? Well, that's just what happens in the Midwest every late summer and early fall. We can get these kind of these pattern breaks that just drive the colder air. And so I will see the frost, but I'm not overly worried about it yet. And based off market behavior, I don't think it matters. I don't think it's going to be a chatter point at this stage. Now, some folks will get affected by it. There's no doubt. Someone listening to us right now will be like, "Man, I can't handle a frost," and I understand that. But overall, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to the entire crop picture.
What about La Nina? That's something we haven't talked about a whole lot here lately. How does La Nina affect all of this as we get into the fall months here, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, the big factor with La Nina is how does it play out with respect to the really, really hot water in the North Pacific? I mean, I don't know if you saw this in the news headlines, but Japan just didn't just set a new time record for August temperatures, but like obliterated all records. There's so much warm water across the North Pacific. And so the question is, how does that interact with the cooler water that's along the equator where our La Nina is developing? And I'll be honest, the trade winds are cooking. I mean, that's La Nina to the T. We've had 4 out of the last 5 falls. Only 2023, fall 2023, did not have a La Nina. 4 out of the last 5 did. And what did we see? We saw dry harvest conditions. And so the question is that La Nina going to give us that typical fall La Nina drier outlook, while making us worry the entire time that something can brew in the Gulf in terms of a tropical system? Now, this tropical season, sure, we've made it all the way to the letter F, but we've got to get the second half of this season really going if we're going to expect this one to be approaching what you'd call a normal season. There's some worry that's going to occur, which is going to be a factor that could offset any lower Mississippi River Valley or southeast drought concerns going forward. But I'm just going to say, don't rest on this hurricane season. I think that the September 15th to November 1 is going to be active. But yes, La Nina, it'll be here for winter as well. Question is what kind of La Nina winter do we get? Because last La Nina winter, it was a snow drought north, heavy snows in New Orleans. Remember that? I remember talking to you the day after that happened. I'm like, what is going on in New Orleans? But and then it was brutally cold in the middle of winter. And then what did we see at the end of it? A major flip in the pattern. We saw tons of rain that came into the southern plains, tons of rain that came into the mid south by spring. That's not very La Nina esque. So the big question, Jesse, is what's the flavor? And I wish I knew right now what to tell you, but I think there's a lot to be discovered about the way this La Nina is going to play out globally.
Any thoughts on South America, real quick, before we close out our conversation this week? I know they're getting closer to spring planting time frame in Brazil and Argentina, Eric.
Yeah, I did get some information last week on this. So I wanted to tell you, Parna can plant today. They were allowed to plant yesterday. They've gotten a little bit better rains farther into southern Brazil, where Parna is. Rio Grande do Sul is getting flooding rains right now. So is parts of Paraguay, Uruguay, northern Argentina. So that's too much rain. And remember, it's still technically late winter there, right? They're trying to break into spring. But the northern growing areas, Mato Grosso do Sul and Mato Grosso, I think, can plant on the 7th. So that's just 5 days from now. And then everybody can plant after the 14th or 15th, at least as far as I understand it. But the monsoon's not going to be there early enough for everyone just to go in right away on the 14th. So I think the big question, Jesse, you and I'll be talking about is the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks. Where are they by November 1? And if they are 95% of the way done by November 1st, crop calendar is wide open and they're going to have a better season because of that. Anything that could upset that is going to be the extremes of precipitation, either too dry or way too wet. Anything in between is what we'd call perfect. So I've got questions as to how that's going to take shape, but I certainly don't see an early monsoon starting in the next 2 weeks.
All right. Well, we always appreciate the conversation. Folks can again learn more. Agweather.com, ag-wx.com. Eric Snodgrass, Nutrient Ag Solutions. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right.